All right, everyone, we are supposedly live. I will make sure that is actually the case on Rumble. By the way, it is extremely hot today, so if I look a little bit sweaty, I actually am. The cat naturally wants to snuggle and put her hair all over me. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's over 80 degrees, so naturally you want to snuggle. Tropical creatures, as though they are. We're going to be getting right into this. We have three major decisions actually today. One of them is one of the big ones, which is constitutional carry. This is the Bruin decision. That's the most major one and probably why 90% of you are tuning in. We also have two other decisions actually as well, a little bit more limited potentially in the language. We will get into them as well, however. Let me make sure that we're actually live on Rumble. Yes, we have constitutional carry upheld by the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision. Roberts didn't cuck. Really great for him. Kind of a counterbalance to the anti-gun bullshit currently making its way through Congress. Yes, we are live on Rumble. All right. Keep in mind, super chats are enabled. I will be trying to get to them all. I expect that there may be more people than normal tuning in because it is the Bruin decision. I'm going to try to get to this, though. First, we'll go, I don't know, which one we'll do? We'll do Bruin first anyway, because it's the most major. Supreme Court of the United States, syllabus, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated, et al., versus Bruin, Superintendent of New York State Police, et al. They have upheld the concept of constitutional carry. The New York and New Jersey's defense shattered. They were not able to defend the concept of shall issue carrying in the United States. And part of these, the opinions here is pretty telling. And this was a Clarence Thomas majority decision. It is, by the way, Clarence Thomas's birthday. What better gift to give him than allow him to pen the majority decision with regards to this particular issue? I posted earlier one of the memes there with Clarence Thomas with the glowing eyes. Joseph, the end of the Supreme Court's current term is upon us. What shall we discuss now? And so this is a good decision. I strongly support it. It is extremely important because effectively what this means is that now there is no shall issue in the United States. It has been abolished by the Supreme Court decision. This is a gun rights win, a major win. And some of the language here could be used as future precedent, by the way. And I'll read through some of it. For future pro-gun decisions. It could definitely be construed that way. It doesn't necessitate constitutional carry, which is what I would have hoped for, but I wasn't expecting it. That being said, components of this particular decision could be used as precedent to provide those cases in the future. My prediction is that some of the states, I think there are 5 shall issue states left. New York and New Jersey are on the docket here. They're mentioned explicitly. California, Maryland, and I can't remember the 5th, but I do know that there is one more. Is it Delaware, one of these states? One of these irrelevant states that nobody cares about. Effectively, what they were saying was that they had the right to impose a litmus test on people to give them permits to carry weapons in a concealed fashion. What the Supreme Court has just found is that that's not actually the case. They do not have the ability to impose a litmus test. It is self-evident, according to the majority decision here, that people can carry firearms outside their home. The people are effectively the militia, although this muddies the water on that a bit, and I don't necessarily agree with that part of the decision, but the people at large are mentioned in the Second Amendment explicitly. They have the right to carry firearms outside of their home. The state government cannot prevent them from doing so if they are law-abiding citizens. They're not a lunatic. They're not in jail. They're not carrying it onto certain lands, for instance, courthouses, schools, etc. Although, I think that there should be guns in schools, but that's an entirely separate case that will be waged. No more litmus tests. No more tests for shall issue permitting. It is now dead. The Supreme Court has ruled that it is unconstitutional. It was a 6-3. Roberts joined the majority on this one. It was a Clarence Thomas decision, but even Roberts didn't cuck, and he was a Bush appointee, so this is fairly important. We'll get to a few super chats really quickly first, and then we'll read a little bit of the text here of the Supreme Court decision. By the way, links in the description if you want to follow along on these decisions. And this was a long one. It's 135 pages of actual litigation. I can't even imagine how many pages Roe v. Wade is going to be. Keep in mind, this was the second biggest decision. Roe v. Wade is obviously the one people are looking towards the most. I can just hear right now all of the leftoids out there shrieking in dismay because they thought that we're going to ban all the guns, slippery slope, we'll march towards that glorious day in which only the cops that we call racist and evil and imperialistic, they're the only people that have guns on domestic soil. You just got dealt one hell of a barrage of setbacks, and it's going to be really funny to analyze this. Simple Logic 90, white pills for all. Yes, the Supreme Court did not cuck on guns. By the way, did I not predict a 6-3 decision? Exactly as it was, with effectively shall issue carry being the flavor of the day. We come shy of constitutional carry, potentially. The next litigation will be that these states raise the price of the issuance of permits to an obscene amount. They will continue to attempt to prevent people from actually obtaining the permits. We're not discriminating against you based on anything. There's no litmus test. All you have to do is cough up $2,000 or $3,000, and then you can concealed carry. That will become a future Supreme Court case. One or more of these states will absolutely do that. The states will lose. In the future, the Supreme Court will strike that down too. It just takes a lot longer. It would have been nice if constitutional carry had been the flavor of the day. I think we come just shy of that. But again, with some of the language here, we do set the stage for future pro-Second Amendment decisions. John Hoyle sent $5. No comment. Thank you very much. Shaker Silver, the court said shall issue permitting is allowed, but still a good decision. Not quite constitutional carry, but still making me jealous up north. Yes, shall issue is now the flavor of the day, which means that a state is no longer permitted in any way, shape, or form from preventing you from applying for and obtaining a concealed carry permit. I don't know if there's open carry permitting actually at this point in most states to be litigated against. By the way, I think we're at 7 or 8 Biden loser units already. That's pretty close to a record. We come shy of constitutional carry, although I think some of these states might just roll over and just say, fuck it. They might just end the permitting process, especially after the midterms. A lot of these state legislatures right now are going to be subsumed because of Biden's low approval and the inflation and other problems. They're going to be subsumed by more Republicans. They're not really going to want, I think, to continue that issue. And so we'll see what happens because, I mean, New York, the Republicans are not going to take the state legislature. New Jersey, a little bit more balanced. Of course, Christie was their fucking governor for a while. Maybe. We'll see. California, Newsom would try to stand in the way, but it's not clear that he'll have the clout to do so. Maryland, we're not sure. I think Rhode Island might have actually been the other one. Rhode Island just raising the age to purchase certain kinds of rifles to 21, again, unconstitutionally. This shows, by the way, the fact that the court took up this case shows an increased willingness to take up pro-gun cases and a willingness to actually not expand. That's what the liberals will say this is. They're expanding the Second Amendment beyond what the founders wanted. Again, the language in this particular decision belies that fact. Not expanding, but upholding, rather. Konstantinos Konst. Good evening from Norway. Longtime listener. 1577 smackaroonies for the awesome dad and his family. Thank you. JD 1989. Sticks, I'm very happy with this decision. This is a fantastic win for Second Amendment rights. Now I'm just waiting for the wackos to spurg out about Roe v. Wade. I'm hazarding a guess we probably won't get that tomorrow. The Supreme Court would be nuts to issue that decision on a Friday afternoon. Everyone's getting out of work, and they'll be free on the weekend. Hey, let's issue Roe v. Wade then and let the town really burn down. I think that they'll do that on Monday, myself. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Mr. Hat 5000. Sticks, the fence-sitting Lolbertarian is losing traction. Actually, the subscriber count is growing faster now. I don't know whether that's algorithmic or just because I'm doing an extra good job. Maybe the live streams are sealing the deal. I have no clue. Highleaf 11, with Texas talking and possibly voting to leave the Union, do you think this is a whole nothing burger? Or if they leave, do you think there will be a second civil war? They're not actually going to leave the Union. I'm not worried about that in the least. It's sort of like with the Mises Caucus Free Staters in New Hampshire. Most of that is the big sell thing. It's almost Trump-like when you think about it. Basically, you say, hey, you threaten to leave, and then you extract tribute from the other side. It's a liberal tactic, actually. They've been doing that for years. Make a big ask, and then you don't expect to get it all, but you expect to get some of it, and then the Republicans keep cucking. They did so on guns, ironically, fairly recently in the GOP mass in the Senate. Jason Winnie, how quickly will red flag laws be challenged and sent to SCOTUS? How quickly will liberals decry police actions when red flag checkup goes awry? The liberals won't challenge it because they don't genuinely care about brown people or any of these other memes that they peddle. They are already being challenged. The problem is getting it before SCOTUS. If anything, the court system in the United States can be very painstakingly slow. Graf von Tyrol, would be nice for AGs to preemptively sue Congress to prevent that asinine compromise. Thanks for nothing, Core9. I do expect several dozen states to sue the federal government over the anti-gun measures that are being passed. It may go before SCOTUS. It's possible. They have been willing to take up such cases. They even talk about Heller and McDonald versus Chicago in this opinion. Again, we'll get to a little bit of that in a moment. The Grizzly, I was watching your video earlier. The acronym is Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers and was fairly good movies. The Chud monsters win. Yeah, the Chuds are winning in real life too, as I pointed out in one of my videos today. Joe Cool, I love you, Sticks. White pills for all. Yeah, lots of white pills today. Rainy Day Tiny Films, looking snazzy. One of my many Hawaiian shirts. I had to make sure that it was red for the GOP today. Highleaf 11, the Supreme Court has ruled that the militia is actually the National Guard due to Articles of Confederation, which says states have a right to call up the militia to defend their state. While that is false, there are two components of the actual militia. If you're saying the people, which is also literally codified in the Second Amendment, I don't know that it makes a huge doctrinal difference. If the people have the right to keep and bear arms in order to potentially perform the functions of militia, really at the end of the day, I mean, any decision that you make on gun rights is not going to be any different. They have to be well armed. They have to be well trained. They have to be well able to function, well regulated, literally. So it doesn't necessarily make a huge difference. Eric, could you look up the stat of criminals of gun crime with carry permits? I have a feeling that most of those criminals don't have a permit to carry, nor should they need to. I mean, until they actually commit a crime, they're a law-abiding member of the militia. If they commit a crime, we should just have nationwide stand your ground and castle doctrine, so if someone kills them, no more problem, no more criminal. Andrew Gagner, in Vermont, hoping that the history and traditional text helps in removing the magazine restrictions here. Thanks. Yeah, the fact that there's gun control at all in Vermont is hilariously bad. It just shows that that idiot that's currently running as governor doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Snark Victory, are concealed carry permits reciprocal nationwide now? I don't believe that is particularly addressed. What this would suggest is that everyone can simply carry, and there may or may not be a permitting process involved. It's not clear that this means constitutional carry, which is the unfortunate part. And I predicted this, by the way, let everyone remember. But it does mean shall issue, which means that if there is a permitting process at all within the state, it shall be issued. They cannot impose any form of litmus test on the person that's actually attempting the issuance. It'll take time to work through all of that. There will be plenty of additional state-level litigation. Shaker Silver, New York may call a special legislature session now. Lol. No, that would be funny. Oh my God, we've got to raise the price of concealed carry permits. Quick! Poor people might be armed on the subway. They might shoot someone from the upper middle class, and that would be a great tragedy. And that's basically what it is. It's horseshit. It's also partially racist. William Montgrain. What's up? Thanks for always bringing the truth. Always shall. Professor Enoch095. Thoughts on Francis Fukuyama? I've never heard of him. Colin Sanders. Here's $5. Please put it towards Twig Hexenhammer's first voodoo doll. Yes, our daughter does have a bank account. And it's, I wish I had that much money when I was less than 1 year old. We're doing our best. Gary Jean, do you think the Roe overturn will result in a GOP midterm election loss, federal and state level? No. If anything, I realize this. I have to point this out. I am pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose, and I believe that that basic premise should be upheld. I think it's crazy to go back to like the 1960s and say that a woman shouldn't be able to, get an abortion when she's probably going to anyway, regardless of legality. But the majority of the U.S. population believes in more stringent laws regarding the usage of abortion. There are almost as many people who want to ban it as there are people who want to uphold it Northam style. I am technically speaking in a minority when I say that I do not want any significant limits. I mean, if you want to say third trimester abortion should be legal, I would uphold that because there's viability. And viability, I think, should be the proper litmus test. That gives plenty of time for abortion. It gives plenty of time for a woman to make that decision for herself in accordance potentially with a therapist, a pastor, or whatever it be, her family, her friends. I think that's fine. What I do believe, though, is that if Roe is overturned, the far left will riot. A lot of other people in the country won't have a problem with it. A lot of them agree with the summation, which is it should be a state issue, in which case, in many cases in their state, it'll be upheld anyway, or it should not be legal at all. That's the majority of the population falls under one of those two umbrellas. So, no, I don't think that that will affect the GOP any. Yeah, we're going to get to some other court decisions as well, because there are two actual other decisions here that I didn't initially count on. And in fact, one of them I didn't know was a thing, that are also important. But right now, the big one is the Bruin decision. Concealed carry is now the law of the land across the United States. It is now illegal, unconstitutional. Well, was anyway, but it's been recognized as such by the judiciary for a state not to issue a permit to someone simply because they don't think they have a proper reason to carry a firearm. Well, then screw the state. New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, they will have to fuck themselves. Good. Supreme Court made the right decision, and it was a 6-3. Roberts didn't even cuck. Zeem the Despot. Is it hilarious that I think Patriot Front can't white supremacists because they're too clean? Oh, it can't be, I think. And organized along with the FBI megaphone. The FBI megaphone thing seems to have been a meme where it was just somebody taking a sticker and putting it on there, possibly for comic effect. But yes, Patriot Front appears to be, in my opinion, controlled opposition. I wouldn't march with them. Any group of people, if they're in uniforms anyway, they're not exactly libertarians. Libertarians are more likely to be a rabble. Andrew B., the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We've got a long way to go before that dream is recognized, but this is definitely a very big positive step in that direction. Rogue, I just woke up. What did I miss? You missed one of the major pro-gun SCOTUS decisions of the last few decades. This is the biggest since Heller and McDonald versus Chicago, and it wasn't close. It was 6-3. Issuance by Clarence Thomas, whose birthday it is. Happy birthday, Clarence. Way to stick it to Joseph. By the way, if anyone wants, I'll open Twitter up over on the side here. If you see any bitching and complaining by leftoids on Twitter, please do message me on Twitter through this live stream, and I will potentially read out their bitching. I'm sure that they will. Jonah Jameson, what crops would you grow in a Biden dark winter garden, specifically for long-term food storage? Well, potatoes are always good. In a cool, dry area, they'll stay for months. Anything you can. Tomatoes are good. Rice is good if you've got the climate for it. I like rice. We're making pizza tonight, actually, and I will be making a homemade sauce. None of this horse shit that comes in a can like Ragu or Prego. That automatically makes it 50% better just making your own sauce. I hate that they pre-sauce the crusts. Not that they use enough of it, but I guess the idea is you just toss your toppings and cheese on there, and supposedly that's going to be better than subpar. I don't understand it myself. Transylvania 90, the Roe overturn would only be bad for the GOP if they overstretch and try to federalize an abortion ban. Agreed. Or if a few states go too far with bans and this brings out leftoid votes nationwide. Some states are already prepping to absolutely ban it, unfortunately. And I don't agree with that, and I don't think it's politically pragmatic. We'll wait and see what happens, though. At the federal level, Roe v. Wade is untenable legally and will almost certainly fall. Bert, Kavanaugh's comments in the decision state that state permit systems is still in effect. Yeah, so shall issue. It just means there's no litmus test for that permitting process. You will have a future decision with regards to the cost of the permitting process. I would, however, point out, and this is probably why they don't have a problem with a shall issue as opposed to constitutional carry. You've had an enormous proportion of states over the last half decade move to a constitutional carry system. The writing is on the wall. Eventually, all 50 states will have constitutional carry. There won't be a permitting process. A huge number of shall issue states converted in the last 2 or 3 years to that system. Again, the writing's on the wall. By the way, my home state of Vermont may be cucked now, but it was the first state to have constitutional carry because the state constitution bans any form of legislation that would impede the Second Amendment. It actually goes beyond the Second Amendment. Not that Phil Scott cares, but, it takes a while for court cases to hit the upper level. John Marafa, expect to see blue states to sue the federal government over red flag. The law requires states to implement due process provisions before they can get government funds. Yeah, they don't want due process. It'd be funny if the blue states were the ones that ended the red flag laws. That'd be funny. The real Holtzinator, liberals act like it's extreme to have constitutional carry, but really we could go way further and have opt-out firearm issuance and training. I've carried my gun before. I go out in the woods, go out on the town or something. Take it in the post office or the court or something like that. But other than that, I'm carrying when I'm in the United States at all times. Ryan McDonald, USA. Joe Kent is CIA by Republicans against Rhinos PAC. The Grizzly, the leftoid salt shaker will be overflowing. Lol. Yes, please do DM me on Twitter if you see any crazy leftoids saying crazy shit with regards to the Bruin decision. I'll look into it right now, actually. There are a couple of messages there. Yeah. We've got Charles Hodge. I'm just going to use your name because, you feed news to me every single day anyway. Citing Election Wizard. Justice Alito responds to liberals citing mass shootings. How does the dissent account for the fact that one of the mass shootings near the top of the list took place in Buffalo? The New York law is at issue in this case, obviously did not stop that perpetrator. Yeah, it's a good point. Oh, goody. Thank you, Sebastian Monroe. I hope you don't mind me using your Twitter name there. I won't do the ad or anything. Greg Price is relating this here. Verified account, so take it with a grain of salt. Governor Kathy Hochul, reacting to the Second Amendment ruling, says we can have restrictions on speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. By the way, that's not actually legally the case. You can. If you cause a stampede, you could be civilly liable, but yes, that is not actually a crime. It's an old joke by the left on this issue. For some reason, they keep using it over and over. That line comes from another SCOTUS case that justified putting anti-war activists in prison, and the precedent was overturned over 50 years ago. Yes, indeed. So yeah, we've got there is some leftoid salt. So go salt mining as well after this fucking live stream is over. Tune in until then. Then I want you to go and mine salt. I'm putting you in the fucking gulag. I'm turning into a communist. We're all going to the gulag together. The philosopher. The federal government is largely toast. The Supreme Court is the last bit that has any semblance of respecting individual rights, and even that is waning. It's time to recognize that nullification and secession will be necessary. I don't think that's pertinent to this particular case. I oppose secession, but I definitely support nullification. States should ignore federal laws that countermand the Constitution. Juries should ignore laws on state, federal, or local level that countermand the Constitution. Start finding people not guilty if you're on a jury, even if they are clearly guilty, if the law makes no sense. They had a magazine that held 15 bullets. They're only allowed to have 10. Fuck it. Fuck the law. The law is a whore. Find them not guilty anyway. This is how prohibition ended. And prohibition was 10 times less bad than what we see with guns right now. Here's a good one. Thank you, Quebecistan. Keith Olbermann. He is definitely meme-worthy. He has lots of great takes. I know. I watch him every day. It has become necessary to dissolve the Supreme Court of the United States. The first step is for a state the court has now forced guns upon to ignore this ruling. Great, you're a court. Why and how do you think you can enforce your rulings? Hashtag ignore the court. Let me query this really quickly, because I'm getting a flashback to when I was in U.S. history at the AP level in high school. Was it not Andrew Jackson, someone who I don't think Keith Olbermann is a particular fan of on multiple levels? Did he not actually decide to ignore Supreme Court rulings at one point because he didn't agree with them? Ignore the court. Yeah, fuck you. Throw you in jail. Throw you in the gulag with all the rest of us. You can mine salt too. It'll just be the kind that gets put on a table. Tom McIntyre, watch the gun violence escalate now. New York City has been the safest city in the USA until after this. Are you fucking goddamn insane? New York City is the safest city in the US. Oh boy. These people are not playing with a full deck. They're not even playing with fucking aces and spades at this point. Gun violence will escalate. Well, I mean, see, the problem is you're always claiming that all of the guns that are used in these violent massacres and stuff come from out of state, from the red states. So why would this have any impact? What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, Sacred Cow, you're sending the same Olbermann tweet. So Keith Olbermann so far is definitely in number one as far as lame-brained tweets on the subject. Oh, goody. This is for Mother Clucker. In his poll says, exactly 1 month after an 18-year-old killed 19 children in a school in Uvalde, Texas, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of stripping away another gun control measure, which will now allow even more access to firearms. It's just believable. Again, can I please address the liberals in the room? All 2 or 3 of you there. There'll always be some that lurk on the channel to downvote the video or the live stream, just to be clear. And we're, I think, goddamn, we're at about 14 Biden loser units right now. Yay, great success. Let me ask you this. The Uvalde shooter did not need a concealed carry permit. Had nothing to do with concealed carry. The permitting process becoming shall issue doesn't even affect the ability to buy a firearm. If you're about to go massacre people, do you give a fucking shit about applying to carry it in public in one manner or another? No. So this is just all horseshit. Nicole Sandler, also related there, another verified account. To the rest of the world, a warning, do not travel to the U.S. American streets are not safe. The Supreme Court just said anyone can carry a concealed gun anywhere, anytime. Don't spend your money here. Your life is at risk the second you deplane. Literally, stay out of the USA. You might have issued this warning for travel to Venezuela or Mexico or some other far left country. Now, it's a big problem that people that already carried guns anyway can carry them now in a slightly different manner. This is about concealed carry. They already had the ability to open carry. I can put my gun on my hip, walk down the street anywhere in the United States. Nobody can do a goddamn shit about it. They can't complain about it. They can't harass me. They can't arrest me. They can't tell me to get out of the store. They can't do jack shit. This just means that if you have a layer of cloth in between the gun and the outside world, suddenly it's no longer illegal anymore. What's the problem? The only people that concealed carry up until now, places where there's no permitting process or a shall issue system, are gang members. Well, they're going to carry it anyway. They didn't even legally obtain their weapons most of the time. They got them from the trunk of a car and they got ran up from Mexico after the U.S. government sold them. Jesus. These people are filled with insanity. Anyway, we might have, do we have any chat? Oh, okay. We got 1 million super chats here. Let's see. Just a second here, and then we'll get to some of the decision. Okay, we start with branch COVID-19. I want to say 5 states restrict open carry. I know Illinois, New York, and Florida are among them. South Carolina did, but they may have changed since last I checked. I think, yeah, oh, you're talking about open carry. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think New Jersey's probably on that list, maybe Rhode Island. LS420 Stoner, I DM a tweet that I'd like your opinion on. I'm LS420 on Twitter too. Did I just get to that? Just a second here. I'll check. Oh yeah, you sent it to me. Yeah, that was from the philosopher. Yeah, I don't believe in secession. That was the tweet that I was first doing. Rock Cyclin Hammer 999. My boss wants to move me from South Cal to Tennessee. What's your opinion on that state? Better than Southern California. You should take up the offer. If you get a raise, even better. Fire down below. What brand or company is your Hawaiian shirts? Various brands. I try to get the ones that are vintage from Paradise Found, which are actual 80s vintage. They're much higher quality. Some of them are the cheap Chinese shit from Shine or whatever it's called, which is literally being sued for attempting to outcompete using designs that were patented by other companies. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Mehdi Hassan from MSNBC is on a Twitter rant now. Yeah, just imagine how they'll spurg out on Roe or the EPA decision potentially. Drew Kohler, the FDA just banned e-cigarettes and Juul products. Has it been confirmed that it is a full ban? Because I know that they were considering it because I made a video this morning. It's an update to me if they've actually gone through with it. Exegesis. I'm a conspiracy theorist, have been since 2014. What are your thoughts on the inconsistent reports on Uvalde and all other mass shootings in Minecraft? I think that a lot of things get lost in the fog of war. The consistency is that the cops really fucked up in Uvalde. There were no good guys with a gun, unfortunately, because they had badges on and they're a bunch of pig cowards. If one of the parents had been given a gun and gone in there, I bet they would have liquidated him before he killed 19 people. Killer Turd 117. Okay, so I don't actually know what a litmus test is, and at this point I'm afraid to ask. Internet search just pulls up a chemistry test. Yes, it's a metaphor. A litmus test, like a test to see yes or no, something is a certain chemical or something. A litmus test as applied to politics is, for instance, with concealed carry. A litmus test would be I'm imposing a test on you to see whether you should or should not be able to carry that firearm in such a manner. That's basically all it means. It's often used in a judicial sense as far as judicial appointments. Politicians will say, well, there shouldn't be a religious litmus test for this position. In other words, the religion, that the person's faith shouldn't be brought up in accordance with how it might sway their opinions or something like that. Sounder Siren 07. Off topic, but are you worried about amnesty from cinema and cornhole? No, not as long as the Senate filibuster exists. I'm not particularly worried. I think that's another example of the left badly overstretching. Ryan McDonald, USA. Academic pagans meeting in London to discuss the dangers of globalism and transhumanism against comparative religion. Is Elon a transhumanist? Opinion? Yeah, he seems to be at least transhumanism-like since he wants to put cyborg components in people. He does some good stuff. That's not one of them. Transylvania 90. According to libs, this decision will turn New York into a Mad Max-like dystopia, just like pro-gun Montana or North Dakota are. And, oh, wait. Yeah, no, they're already the dystopias. New York City already is dystopian. It's a pile of pollution, trash, and horse shit, basically. Anyway, let me get to a couple of lines of this decision. First, I got to expand this out. So I won't be looking at chat for a minute here. I've got to zoom in. Where did I leave off? And it refers to Heller and McDonald versus Chicago, just to be clear. Where did I leave off? I lost my place here. I'm sorry, everyone. It's 135 pages. Just give me a moment. Yeah. It is undisputed that petitioners Koch and Nash, two ordinary law-abiding adult citizens, are part of the people whom the Second Amendment protects. So it's fairly important. See Heller, 554, U.S. at 580. And no party disputes that handguns are weapons in common use today for self-defense. See ID at 627. The court has little difficulty concluding also that the plain text of the Second Amendment protects Koch's and Nash's proposed course of conduct, carrying handguns publicly for self-defense. Nothing in the Second Amendment's text draws a home or public distinction with respect to the right to keep and bear arms, and the definition of bear naturally encompasses public carry, so carrying guns outside of your private property. Moreover, the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation, ID at 592, and confrontation can surely take place outside of the home, pages 23 and 24. Syllabus continued, number 2. The burden then falls on the respondents to show that New York's proper cause requirement is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. To do so, respondents appeal to a variety of historical sources from the late 1200s to the early 1900s. But when it comes to interpreting the Constitution, not all history is created equal. A little bit of a constitutional side there. Constitutional rights are enshrined with the scope they were understood to have when the people adopted them. Another allusion to Heller, 554 U.S. at 634, 635. This is a real goddamn important line here, and you're going to see it in future court cases, just so that you're aware. This is originalism, and I happen to agree with it, by the way. Therefore, the founders understood the militia was not the military or state guard, because neither of them existed at the time. They understood that weapons of war were specifically covered under the Second Amendment. You see where I'm going here? This is actually very, very exciting, the way that this is worded. Because keep in mind, every single letter in this creates legal precedent for future cases. I don't see the court becoming run by liberals anytime soon. And I guess, I mean, if Roberts joined the majority here in a 6-3, if we don't have to worry about him, at any time soon, even if one of the conservative justices, Roberts aside, of course, croaks right now, you'd still have a 5-4 in favor of guns in many of these decisions. Good on him. You have partially redeemed yourself, you fucking Bush appointee. Respondents' substantial reliance on English history and custom before the founding makes some sense, given Heller's statement that the Second Amendment codified a right inherited from our English ancestors. I deviate from this particular part of the opinion. It was specifically to get away from the regulations of Europe, especially the British, that many of the amendments were penned. So the right to quarter troops in one's home requires your voluntary assignment of that. The right to the press. Of course, the British had a censored press. I deviate from this, but again, either or. It's sort of like other parts of this decision. Not calling the militia the people at large becomes irrelevant if you're saying, well, the people are naturally codified, subjugate to the Second Amendment, so they have this right. Well, either way, they have that right. You're just using a different term for them. But the court finds that the history ambiguous at best and sees little reason to think that the framers would have thought it applicable to the New World. This is also important. The court cannot conclude from this historical record that by the time of the founding, English law would have justified restricting the right to publicly bear arms suited for self-defense only to those who demonstrate some special need for self-protection. I mean, it's self-evident. I agree with that line completely. I think there was something further down, I think, here. Yeah, they actually use the 14th Amendment in part of this. Equal protection definitely applies. Let's say that you have two citizens. They both want to carry a gun to protect themselves. And they approach the state and they say, hey, I want a permit to be able to carry a firearm in a concealed manner. I fear for my life. I want to protect my garage, my privacy, whatever. And they issue it to one person, but not to the other. And there's no just cause for that differentiation. It's not just the Second Amendment that you're violating equal protection. It's very, very interesting to see the conservative majority do what I hoped that they would do, but didn't necessarily even expect them to do, and drag out the 14th Amendment. This undercuts any liberal proposition at ever undermining this particular decision. It'll be 100 goddamn years before they would be able to justify it based on that single premise alone. Very, very good on Clarence Thomas. You did a good job with this one. Happy birthday. So effectively what has happened is that the Supreme Court has upheld the concept of constitutional carry as a shall issue process, which I predicted would happen. While I was hoping in my wildest fever dreams it would be constitutional carry, and they issued a one-page decision simply saying, look, people can carry guns wherever they want with regards to anything that's not government property, fuck yourself, it was never likely that that was going to be the case. The only problem with this outcome, because it's an excellent outcome, Bruin, this is a huge pro-gun decision. To be clear, we're not going to undermine the importance of this, the significance constitutionally. The problem is that at least one or two of those blue states that don't want to issue the permits are simply going to up the price. So instead of it being $50 to get concealed carry and you have to give us a reason why you want it, it'll be $5,000. You don't have to give us a reason why, but you have to pony up the dough. This will eventually lead to another SCOTUS decision. Thankfully, even though it'll take a while, I think that will be decided in the favor of the Second Amendment as well. We also have a couple of other decisions, though. Bruin isn't the only one we need to talk about. We also have more messages here, I think, of more salty leftoids. I guess Mother Clucker actually pointing out, yes, I guess the FDA has banned Juul e-cigarettes. I talked about this morning. This is also important news. Biden wants more money for e-cig makers, vaping makers in the United States. So he decided to ban the, Swedish or something manufacturer, thus ensuring that prices will rise marginally. More people will probably use them, and they'll get more tax revenue. How wonderful. Saving lots of lives, Biden, just like you did in Afghanistan. Wink. Anyway, there are other links in the description as we approach, I don't even know how many Biden loser units we're on. We've got over 700 people on Rumble, almost 4,000 between YouTube and Twitch at the moment. This is the most people we've had in a while, by the way. We also have Miranda. Miranda writes, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be afforded to you by the state, and so forth. It's kind of a meme because that's not always situationally applicable. There's an old libertarian meme. Am I being detained? Am I free to go? Am I being detained? And by the way, you should not start shouting that if the officer is trying to talk to you, because then you'll probably get detained. Just to be clear, a little bit of respect does go a long way, especially if you know you've done nothing wrong. Just saying that, when you spurg out, it's not necessarily the most legally helpful thing you can do. We've got Vega versus Takeo in this particular case. Miranda writes, were not judged to be applicable to the situation. This had to do with a medical situation, I believe, in which the defendant had allegedly molested an individual within a medical context and had fondled them effectively, and was sued, and was talking to the officer and didn't feel like their Miranda rights had been upheld. They weren't told that they had the right to remain silent, etc. And the problem is that, generally speaking, Miranda rights are understood in the context of an official grilling of an individual. That is, you're not simply talking to a police officer. Could you invoke your Miranda rights? You're walking down the street, and there's a police officer there, and you say, hi, hello, and you do some small talk. They're a crossing guard or something, a more official one with an actual badge. And you're talking to them, and you accidentally admit to having done something wrong. The investigation finds that to be the case, and you get imprisoned for it. Do your Miranda rights apply in that situation? This is slightly different. It's not exactly apples to oranges, but we'll go with that situation. The Supreme Court has effectively held it does not apply to that specific situation. It applies to actual interrogation. So post-detention, you have been put in cuffs. You have been told you will come with us. Your Miranda rights apply. You have the right to remain silent, etc. Before they cuff you, they have to say that, and so forth. It does not apply in regular conversation prior to that. That's basically what this means. I'm not sure that I actually agree with this. I believe that if a person is unaware of the fact that in their interactions with a law enforcement officer or some similar individual, they could potentially face charges. That is, they're not detained yet, they're not under official interrogation, but they could be, assuming that the conversation goes a certain way. I believe that it should apply. I would support legislation to extend Miranda rights at this time to compensate for this decision. The decision is sound under the current iteration of law with 1986 and Miranda in general. That's true. What I worry about is that this will be misused, especially at a time when police, if you look at like the January 6th defendants, there can be some problems there with detention. What if these people on January 6th are talking to the officer outside of the building or something, and then they just say the wrong thing? Oh, yeah, I was just in this office over here in the building. They haven't been read their rights. I see that as a right. They have the right to know that they may face legal repercussions from the state based on their actions and how they relate them to the officer. I don't know that I hugely agree with the decision outside of pragmatism. Constitutionally speaking, I can understand it, but again, I'm not 100% on that. We also have Nance versus Ward, and I applaud the Supreme Court for this decision. Nance versus Ward is a case where an individual, I believe in Georgia, invoked the right to option a way to die other than lethal injection. He had said due to his medical problems, if he's given a lethal injection, basically his veins will bleed out. And he said, that is cruel and unusual punishment. I have the right to choose a firing squad. By the way, I support the right to firing squad. In fact, I support a wide plethora of right to die legislation among those that have been such convicted and given the death penalty. I don't agree with the death penalty in principle anyway, but if we're going to use it, I think people should have the right to choose the way that they die within some reasonable confines. Lethal injection, there's no particular evidence because the person dies, so you can't ask them how it felt. There's no particular evidence that it really limits the painfulness. I would think a gas chamber would be better. Hey, you asphyxiate. You're still breathing, but you're not getting any oxygen. You just pass out from that and you die. Getting shot. You get your brain blown out. Well, you die instantly, effectively. I think I'd ask them to aim for the heart so I could just bleed out and then watch them gasping while they recoil in horror at the spectacle. God damn, even electrocution is probably better than lethal injection. We've arguably chosen the worst possible way to die. It takes 3 different injections to actually be administered. I think first you lower the respiration, first you numb them, then you lower the respiration to a sub-survivable rate, and then you stop their heart or something. I don't know, and I hate needles, so if I were on death row, I'd say definitely that's cruel and unusual. I'll pass out before you administer it, dude. You know, just give me some drugs beforehand. Maybe then it's okay. Give me a couple Adderalls or something. So yes, we do have 3 decisions actually that were fairly major. I kind of sort of understand, but don't generally support the Miranda decision. I do support Nance versus Ward. I would have gone even wider and said, hey, if a person's going to die, they've exhausted appeals, they have no possible hope of surviving, I don't care if they want a bucket of scorpions to be poured upon them. Go ahead, let them. I think it should be televised too. You could raise money to recoup some of the taxpayer losses for keeping them inevitably for 10 to 20 years before they're executed. Televise the executions. People would love that shit. You'd make millions of dollars a pop. There aren't that many. You could recoup the loss. I also support a Coliseum system. In fact, one of my videos tomorrow will probably be on the subject of the death penalty because of this. Let's see. There's a bunch more, I think, super chats. If I can get to them. Let's see. Where are they, though? That is the problem. Viking Vet, did you hear that one of the officers in Uvalde got a call from his wife who was shot in the school, and when he tried to rush the other officers, tased him, subdued him, and took his weapon? Not surprised. They're a bunch of subhuman filth. They should all be fired and exiled. We don't need those kind of people in the United States. Send them to a desert island somewhere and kill each other. It's clearly what they want. They want death. Oh, kids are screaming. Hey, quick, taser this dude. He's trying to stop him. We want more death so that it gets news. I have a sneaking suspicion that there might be some real blackpilling reasons behind exactly that response. Kirozo de Soya. SCOTUS ruling ahead of the gun control vote. Think they are telling Congress what will happen if they push it through. Clank on. Well, no, this was on the docket long before Uvalde, so it doesn't have to do with that. Although I do have to say, the fact that they had Thomas doing it on his birthday as the majority writer is probably not a coincidence. I think that they gave him that one. And I think he's chuckling about it literally as we speak. A Carson 87. Since Clarence Thomas written an opinion on it, wouldn't his written opinion be common law? I don't know the answer to that. AJ, good luck trying to open carry in Maryland. State police will throw you in jail faster than you can say shall not be infringed. Well, no problem now. You're allowed to concealed carry. They can't deny you a permit to do so, so go ahead. Go down to the town office and say, I'm here for my permit, and you're not allowed to ask me why I want it. So here's your $50 or whatever it costs. I'll be carrying a gun, or maybe 5 of them. As long as they're concealed, there's no problem. The Dharma Bum, $2. No comment, thank you. Mark F. Did Eustace vote for steaming brown flag laws? Yeah, I call them red flag laws and say it's a little bit like the communist flag now, isn't it? Justice Thomas, I consult Styx's videos before making rulings. I wish that the Supreme Court would listen to me, be a better country. I think most of you agree with that sentiment. Reality Paranormal. I'm typing up my first edited work, a transcript on a man executed for lycanthropy, and listening in. Old English can be a pain to read through. Good day for Second Amendment. Keep up the fine work, Mr. Styx. Thank you very much, and sounds interesting. Lycanthropy is pretty cool. I don't know if you mean the medical condition or the more mystical side of it, but both of them definitely relevant to my interests. Give me a link at some point when you publish it. William Montgrain. Being polite and respectful to police can also be helpful even if you've done something wrong. Yeah, you don't want to antagonize the person that might be putting cuffs on you. What a fucking terrible idea. Some of these retarded losers, and they're high usually half the time. The police come along, they're trying to have a decent conversation with them. And, they're suspected maybe, you were drunk driving or something, but they're trying to be respectful. They've got their hands down like this. They're not, in your face or anything. And you're sitting there spitting on them and saying weird shit. Of course they're going to jail you. You're clearly inebriated, especially if inebriation happens to be part of the issue. You're giving them an excuse. If they really do want to be abusive, they'll beat you to the ground. And I don't know that I really blame them in that situation. Imagine having to deal with that shit all day. And I'm not a thin blue liner or anything like that, but I mean, Jesus. Iggy the Incubus, while this ruling may or may not kill the upcoming gun control from the feds outright, no, it has nothing to do with any of the gun control, to be clear, that they're proposing. Its enforceability is dead in the water and will almost assuredly be challenged immediately upon passage. We have had challenges to similar things that are in the federal gun control register. The problem is that some of it is not a law at all. The red flag law thing is just the federal government wants to hold money over the states' heads with regards to it. It is exactly the same as highway funding being pegged to keeping the age to drink at 21. We're not penalizing anyone. We're providing incentives to states that keep it that way. They're doing the same thing with those, but they're not telling states they have to have red flag laws, and half of them don't want them. They won't accept red flag laws. I do believe it's unconstitutional, this particular carrot and stick methodology. We'll see what happens in the courts. Let's see. Platty, agreed. PPV, capital punishment. I've thought the same. Yeah, put them in a coliseum, let them choose their method of death, or abolish it outright. Those are the 3 choices a civilized society has. I support getting rid of the death penalty. I don't think that anyone should be considered beyond the capability of redemption in that sense, because then you're giving the state the ability to, in some cases, impart upon them the same judgment they gave others. It doesn't set really a great moral message. But if you're going to maintain it, at the very least, if they're going to die anyway, give them their last hurrah. Yes, even if they're a goddamn maniac, let them, drink poison. Let them shoot themselves. Let them kill themselves if they want to. Who cares? They're going to die anyway. Who cares about the methodology? Crossover Maniac, does that mean your pet dies in agony when they're put to sleep by the vet when it gets too old? And if not, why use the same chemicals? I think most of the time they use a carbon dioxide, actually. Put a little hood over them, pump it full of gas that's not oxygen, and then they kill them that way. I don't think that they give them a triple lethal injection most of the time. Could be wrong, though. Maybe your vet's just insane. Dave MC, keep up the great work. Check out nicotine salts. It's the reason cigs are being screwed with. PM is being handed market supremacy via FDA gangsters. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Miami Cuz, you think those 14 GOP senators will cuck on amnesty? That is less likely. There is no compelling reason like Uvalde that they would do so. I don't know that they'll gain the votes. Mitt Romney will be on board. I don't even think Cornine would be on board with that, though. Drew McTide, if you're in Maryland and seeking a wear and carry permit, the training will still be required. There are a small number of MD qualified wear and carry trainers. Sign up now. Well, I think there's reciprocal carry too, so you might be able to go out of state and get that. I don't know how the law works. See, I never had to deal with it. In Vermont, we have a shitty state government, but we also have had constitutional carry since day one. So I carry my gun out in the woods. A coy dog might attack me, a rabid raccoon or something. I don't want to have to beat it over the head with a shovel or something. I should be able to shoot it. Mac Lusk, hey Sticks, have you seen Starfield? New Bethesda game with full base and shipbuilding, planets to explore, and good graphics. Comes out in a year, though. I saw it covered by, I believe, Razor Fist, actually. It doesn't look of interest to me. Effectively, it looks basically like a graphically updated Interstellar Fallout. I would prefer actual Fallout. I want nuclear war and stuff. Or Elder Scrolls. That's fine, too. I can kill dragons and wander through the snow killing, raiders and shit. Kane Bizarro, you ever see the George Carlin bit on jail and the death penalty? Yes, I did, where he proposed that there should be like 4 giant open-air prisons out in the Midwest, like Wyoming and shit. And I think the perverts went in one, the murderers went in another. I can't remember exactly the categories, but the idea was occasionally you open up the gates and let them slaughter each other, and it would be pay-per-view. I don't agree with that because, some of that land is arable. Just build a coliseum. Ship them in. Have one great big-ass prison for all the prisoners that would actually apply to the concept. You have 8 people. They're on death row or they're lifers. They're never going to get out. They're either going to die or they're going to grow old and die in prison. 8 people go in. Rapists, serial killers, murderers, child molesters, whatever they are. And they fight to death in a tiered tournament, and one of them gets to go free. They'll probably reoffend and end up back in there, by the way. The other 7 die. It's cheaper. It actually generates revenue. You've completely lambasted them. You've created a disincentive for anyone who's not suicidal to ever commit a major felony. I don't know. I don't see the problem. It's not like the 8th person that survives isn't going to be a tagged man for the rest of his life. Just tattoo him on the forehead. Rapist, murderer, something like that. Make sure they can get a job, and you hope that they don't reoffend, but they're not exactly going to be able to go out and evade police or something. Put an RFID chip in their dick or something like that. Put it right next to their heart so they can't remove it. Fear Frozen 55. My dog was put down last week. He had an injection. My sister and I spent 5 minutes petting him as he slowly went to sleep and then died. I miss him. Reminds me of when my cat Cleopatra died. She didn't get an injection or anything. She had several strokes or heart attacks or something, and I just held her on the bed and petted her, and she expired, unfortunately. Died semi-peacefully. I had to literally hold her head up towards the end so she could drink water, and it wasn't pleasant. Brian 88. What do you think of extending the Electoral College down to the county level? I like the idea. Whoever wins the most counties wins the state, so the largest demographic selection has the voice in elections. It's an all right idea. I think the current system works reasonably well. It has its own ins and outs. There's no such thing as a perfect system. Crossover Maniac, if the CO2 hoodie is good enough for a terminally ill pet, then why not use it on death row inmates? It's basically similar to the gas chamber idea. It's just, it just asphyxiates the person. I have no problem with that. It's a better way to die than a lethal injection where you have to deal with the needles. I think that if I could choose any method of death, and if I'm on death row or something, I get framed for mass murder by Biden's DOJ thugs or something and end up on death row, I'd choose firing squad, but only if I could have them shoot me in the heart instead of the head. I believe that having your brain fractured is probably the worst way to go, technically speaking, because imagine your entire reality, like the central processor perceiving the outside world, is just suddenly all fucked up. So chunks of your memory and yourself and your perception are just all wonky. That sounds like hell to me. No, thank you. I'd rather be beheaded. Bring back the guillotine. It'd be better. If you can't feel your body, you're not feeling any pain now, are you? As long as they picked up my head, by my long hair, right after they chop it off and they show me my own dead body, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, wow. Well, there's my body. Whoops, here I go, dude. Wondering if we have any more Twitter material here. Yes, apparently it is being reported by Axios. FDA orders Juul e-cigarettes off the U.S. market. Thank you, Sarah, for that tip. I covered this morning. It's a crazy idea. It's not going to stop people from smoking or vaping. It's just a cash grab by U.S. tobacco industry. Many of those companies, I believe, also have share with tobacco itself as opposed to just e-cigs. Shunt 4000, I am for more hangings for corrupt politicians. In North Korea, I think they still do that fairly often. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline now. We've been covering this. Oh, we do have a couple super chats on Rumble that I have to get to. Padre speaks, Vega versus Takeo. Don't talk to police. Always get a lawyer. Should you become detained, sit and seethe until you are released. You may not get released. Yes, I would say as a caveat, it's okay to talk to police, but keep in mind that anything you say can potentially be used against you if there is a case potentially to be made. If you're going to talk to them, be respectful, be guarded, I would say, because, in some cases, they're incentivized to prosecute people, to jail them. This is the case with traffic tickets as well. Amaru, Sticks, what effect would the recent decision have on convoluted state laws that constrain castle doctrine to having to retreat before standing ground within one's own home? No effect whatsoever, but it does potentially, in the wording, if you pay close attention to Thomas's wording especially, it can potentially be used as a legal precedent for that. Because of the way that it's worded, it could be used as a jumping point to nullify duty to retreat laws. And I hope that happens very soon, because there shouldn't be such a thing. If you're on your own property and someone attacks you, you should be able to air them out without further notice. You shouldn't be charged. You shouldn't even be goddamn detained and questioned. Just drag the body off of the property. Should be fine. Amaru again. Sticks, is cancel culture anathema to the all-American favorite redemption arc that so many people cherish in the United States? Yes, it is. Very simple answer on that one. All right, we got a couple more and then we'll go off. Insane, hippie, insane. If I ever get put on death row, I would want to go by Old Sparky. Yeah, won't feel much because your nerves will get overloaded. Ever been shocked by a really high voltage before? You just sort of blank out. Lancer 737, if you need a mod for November, I'll volunteer. No, I don't think that we're going to need mods. I do have a prospective co-host, actually, for the midterm elections. That'll be a big one. By the way, speaking of big live streams, Jesus Christ, I think at peak today, we hit 14, 15 Biden loser units. That's, I think, the biggest since the last midterms, actually. I think. I'll have to judge it based on the other live streams. One more. Bleach Demon, what is your opinion on returning to state appointment of senators? I support the concept. That's the way it was initially intended. Worked better. Yeah, I would rather have state legislatures appoint the senators. Doesn't need to be voted for. It just distracts people from other races that are actually meaningful. 2 per state. Okay, let the legislature decide. They were appointed by the people to begin with. It makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to go off now. It's time to do a few other things, including eventually pizza for dinner with mushrooms, extra cheese, and peppers. That's about all.